been really helpful. Welcome, everyone. We're excited for this webinar we have today. We're going to be talking about making a Laudato Si action plan. I know that all of our communities have been working so hard at getting here, and now we've arrived at this point where we get to look at making a plan. So welcome, everyone. My name is Joshua Van Cleef. As you know, I'm the director of the Office of Peace and Justice. These webinars, which are on cdlex.org, all the recordings are, these webinars accompany our parishes as they work through going from assessment, listening session, to making a plan. Remember, our plans are going to be due October 4th. And right now, you're probably wrapping up your listening sessions. Be sure to send in those notes to me by the end of the month. All right, before we get started, let's go ahead and just review a few of our housekeeping things. We'll remain muted throughout the presentation. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. At the end, there'll be time for a question and answer. You can wait to the end and put those in the chat, or put them in the chat throughout our presentation. We'll go back to them. All right. So let's get started in the way that we always do, which is asking God to just be so present to us in this time. So in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. All-powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with your tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature as we journey towards your infinite light. Thank you for being with us each day. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we're so grateful for our leadership of Pope Francis and for this prayer that has inspired us throughout our webinar series, and hopefully you're able to use at your parishes too. Before we jump into this topic today, we're going to just review our checklist and situate where we are in this process. Each of our teams has enrolled in the Laudato Si action platform. If you haven't done that, it only takes a minute. You can go to the action plan guide or instructions. You've assembled a team. That team has completed a parish assessment. And during August, all of our parishes are working on their listening sessions. Those notes, again, are to be sent to me, just so that we can make sure to keep up with the progress of all of our teams. And as we look at September, this is the time that we have been waiting for. We are now going to take what we've learned through the assessment and the listening session and craft our plan. This isn't an end-all be-all plan. It's just for our first year. Each year, we're going to update and evaluate our plans. So now we look at the plan. These plans, you can find all the information in our Laudato Si action guide. It's on our website. You've seen it in our newsletter that gets sent out. And this is, again, the format that you can find in that newsletter I sent out yesterday and in our guide. Just a reminder about what our plan is going to look like. Every single one of our parishes are going to be making a plan, and then those plans will come together. And as a diocese, our plan will include what every parish is doing. So that's why we need every single one of our parishes, and what the diocese is doing. Each plan will have the same format, and here are the instructions. So We look at what we've done with the assessment, the feedback we got from the listening session, and now we're going to determine really three things. We're going to lay out three things. One, a parish Laudato Si statement. This could be one line or two lines or a paragraph or however much you want. And this statement just says why caring for creation is important to us as a parish community. Then we're going to name the commitments we're already doing that we're going to continue to do. I bet many of your parishes have picked up all of these things you've already been doing and kind of acknowledged those. So we're going to continue those commitments. That's the second thing. So the Laudato Si statement, why caring for creation is important to us, what commitments we're going to continue, and then the third thing is new commitments we're going to make. And we use the acronym SMART. These commitments should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant to the goals of Laudato Si, and time-bound. When we're going to start them, how often we're going to do them. And then those plans will get sent to the bishop and to me and uploaded on the Laudato Si Action platform by October 4th. If you have any questions, you can email me or call me. This is what the plan format looks like. So you'll follow this structure when you write your plan. Again, there's the Laudato Si action, the Laudato Si statement, why this is important to us as a parish, and then each one of the goals followed by what commitments we're going to continue, what new commitments we're going to take on using that acronym SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, related to the goals of Laudato Si, and time bound. You can see there we go through the 7 goals. And it's important to note that also on this plan, you'll appoint someone as your Laudato Si coordinator for the parish. This person will be in contact with the diocese and will oversee the progress of this plan. And then each year during the season of creation, we're going to revisit our plans, evaluate, and update them. So you'll see that information in the front. Then at the very end, dated submitted and the pastor or parish life director signature, just to make sure that our parish is fully on board with this, starting from our ministers too. All right. Now, let's move into our programming for today. We've kind of caught up with where we are. Now I'll be happy to introduce our presenter. Today, our presenter is Paz Artaza-Regan. Paz works with the Catholic Climate Covenant. And with the Catholic Climate Covenant, they look and work with all of the dioceses throughout the United States and help them develop their plans. Paz works with parishes all over the country and has a really good sense of what people are doing, what plans work, and what plans are challenging. So today we're so grateful that Paz has agreed to join us today and talk a little bit about making a plan. So now, Paz, welcome. We're so glad you're with us, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you, everyone. As I get started, before I share my screen and the slides, I just want to say how blessed you all are to have Josh and the diocese behind you. I work mostly with parishes that are kind of like the little ones in the wilderness that are trying to come up with plans on their very own and really do not have a diocesan staff person that is putting a plan together for everybody and that is giving you the map of how to do it. So that's a blessing already. Let me share my screen. And let me move this over. Okay. So let me get started. I'm going to be talking to you about making a Laudato Si action plan. Some of the slides were created for those lonely only parishes that need a little bit more support, but I think they'll still work for you. To get started, though, let me go a little bit into what Catholic Climate Covenant is. We're a U.S. nonprofit that was created with the assistance and support of the U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops in 2006, and we're a partnership organization of 20 U.S. Catholic groups, and I'll go through that in a second. And our big mission is to unfold creation care as an integral aspect of church practices and ministries in the U.S. Catholic Church. Our vision is that all humanity, it's a world where humanity shares in both the responsibility and joy of our common home. And this all creation thrives with wholeness, abundant life, dignity, and justice, some of the core Catholic values. Our mission is to inspire and mobilize the U.S. Catholic community to care for creation and achieve climate justice through the lens of integral ecology. And integral ecology is really what Laudato Si explores and discusses. These are our 20 national U.S. Catholic partners, and as you will see, it's a diverse group of religious orders, Catholic nonprofit organizations, and also Catholic large groups like Catholic Health Association and National Catholic Education Association. Some of our impacts. We have registered about 400 some creation care teams that are implementing Laudato Si in their parishes, schools, and community levels. So far, the Interdiocesan Creation Care Network includes 37 dioceses that are working together and sharing the leadership guidance, ideas, and resources. And at the moment, there are 31 dioceses, U.S. dioceses, that are enrolled in the platform, of which 27 are public. It's an issue with European privacy laws that you don't check a little box. And when you are enrolling, make sure if you want us to know that you've enrolled, that you check that box saying, yes, please share this information with
Only
others.
one.
The Catholic Voice, for example, the Encounter campaign, which is the advocacy campaign, when the Inflation Reduction Act was being discussed, about 850 Catholics in 47 states had meetings with the US senators to talk about the IRA. And thousands signed the Catholic letter that went out supporting the Inflation Reduction Act. Going to talk a little bit here about our role with the platform. In 2021, the Vatican named the covenant as the U.S. Catholic hub for the Laudato Si Action platform. What that means is that we try to coordinate each of the 7 sectors to do the U.S. Catholic work, and we try to keep the pulse of what's happening. And because of that, we launched a specific platform website for the U.S. Catholic community. We sort of thought that the platform website is great for enrolling and for getting resources, but to accompany the U.S. Catholic community in this journey, we created We're All Part of God's Planet. Josh will share all these slides with you, and you will have the links to these places. So on the God's Planet site, you will find a lot of resources, such as these pages. On the toolbar, if you go to that section, sectors, and you click down here where it says parishes and dioceses, it will take you to the stories and resources links for your sector. And then under Get Involved, you can choose if you want to do advocacy, if you want to apply for a grant. At the moment, there is a Victory Knoll Sisters large grant for net zero projects that's connected there. If you have an event, you can post it and be a part of a calendar, and you can get to all the resources through here as well. So little bit of what Josh has already spoken to you about and what's in your document. Your statement. Your statement should summarize what is your vision. This is what your why. Why are you doing this? What's grounding you? And you decide those 1 or 2 statements of how to explain your vision of what the world should look like. The naming the parish commitments, it's your how. And these, as Josh said, need to be smart, specific. And this is something that is very much part of your diocesan effort. The fact that you've been given this is a great tool. A lot of parishes struggle of putting together their commitments because they do not have this rubric. Great rubric. And I also here say, follow your plan format. That's going to be important. So the goals. There are 7 goals in the platform, and I've given you here the link to them, where on the platform there's a little bit of an explanation for each of these goals. And then you are also, when you're enrolled, asked to provide a reflection piece. A lot of folks get kind of nervous, like, what are they talking about? Well, it's really your vision expounded upon. So it's that those statement that you create, that's 2, 3 sentences. Your reflection is a longer piece of that. And I always tell folks to start with Laudato Si, paragraph 160. What kind of world do we want to leave to those who come after us, to children who are now growing up? I think that that sort of grounds us as to why is it that we want to do this work? I also see the reflection as the see judge section. Your listening sessions are what's going to be feeding your reflection piece and your statement. And if you're looking at it from the see, judge, act model, see and judge is your reflection, your listening sessions, all that go there. And some of the questions that I put up to parishes when they're doing this work is, what do you see as the needs in your community? What is happening in your community, in your diocese, your county, your state, your nation? And you can then decide which part of that you're going to answer in your vision. Think about, why did Pope Francis call on us? And here's very important, especially the US Catholic community. In Laudato Deum, it's very obvious that he is really speaking to the global north and especially to the US community to be part of an ecological conversion. So think about, why would it be that we, as Catholics in the global north, what used to be called the developed world, in one of the most industrialized, most wealthy nations in the world, why is the Pope really putting this ask of us? How do we as US Catholics respond to that? What is our role as a US Catholic in this question of what world we want to leave? How is your parish community uniquely called to respond? You're living in a part of the United States that has many challenges, and therefore the way you respond may also be the template for other places in the US that have these challenges. And what is your community's vision for the future? So this is all part of your reflection, your statement, and how you get started in your plan. Then we come to the action plan, the act part of the See, Judge, Act. Now, you have a rubric of how your action plan should work, but when you're looking into adding to that rubric, do remember these things. Your plan is as unique as your community. I have yet to see 2 parishes that come up with the exact same plan. They may have the same goals because those are the 7 goals of the platform, but how they go about it might differ. Your plan should reflect your community's needs, your community's passions, and expertise. You cannot create a plan where the members of your team are like, we have to do this. It's not really something we are good at or want to do, but we'll put it in anyway. That's not what should go in. Listen to what your passions are. If your passions, I see some parishes that say, we have some members that are incredibly passionate about food banks and community gardens. That's then where part of their passion and their energy should go. It should be as simple or as complicated as you see fit. It's fine to start small because you don't want to go in there and just fix the world all in 1 year. You can start small and then add actions later, or start big if you really have a committee that's got energy and wants to start big, and then go ahead and aim for those big actions and big results. It should be a genuine response to what you see happening in the world. Your parish knows what is happening in your community, and you're the best able to discuss how to tackle those issues. Catholic Church, Catholic social teaching is big on the issue of subsidiarity, that problems should be dealt with at its most local level. And the parish is that stronghold of the local level. You know what's happening, you know the solutions. It should be a roadmap to the future that you envision. Think back to the quote from Laudato Si. How do we get to that world that we envision? It should be flexible. You are free to change it. Josh talked about that every year you will be evaluating and perhaps changing it. So you're free to change it as you continue in the journey. What you write in year 1 may not be what you have on year 5 or 6 because of things that change. You can recalibrate. You are free to do so. The action plan need not reinvent the wheels. What I mean by that, there are lots of plans already uploaded. You can go and seek inspiration from other plans, and I'll give you a little information about that. And whatever action plan you come up with, that's your plan. Though you may be inspired by others, you need to make it yours. So don't go and find inspiration and go, oh, that really sounds incredible, but you know that you're not going to have carry through in your parish for that. So be, specific as to what you think you can get done. So what is the inspiration? You have from the platform itself, and all these things in yellow are hyperlinked, so you can go and check on this. Josh will share the slides. There are Laudato Si planning guide for parishes. This is from the platform. It walks you through. This is in addition to what Josh has already given you, but if you need that kind of inspiration, look for that. When you've enrolled, you also can take the self-assessment. I need to make sure you understand it is an optional self-assessment. I really recommend that you do take it, but I do also give you the do not be surprised with what comes back after you take the self-assessment. Many US parishes that have been doing this work for maybe 10 years, even before Laudato Si, they have creation care teams. They take the self-assessment and they're given back basically, you're in the lowest 2% of global parishes that are in your carbon output, in the sense of you're not doing enough. And they're like, wait, what happened here? There is no way that a US parish is going to be able to be a champion in carbon reduction just going in because you're being compared perhaps to a parish in the rural areas in the Philippines that probably doesn't even have 24-hour electrical supplies. So we're at a different place. So when you take the self-assessment, do note that. So when you take it, you receive the suggested actions that you can take. Look at those. They're not telling you to take those specific ones, just take that as guidance. There are these Maryknoll missioners worksheets that were created for individuals and families, but they're incredibly useful for parishes as well. It walks you through each of the 7 goals. It gives you ideas, and it walks you through a worksheet of where you are and where you can go. So those are available. The Sisters of Mercy have a guide to living Laudato Si. Again, excellent resource that walks you through each goal, that encourages you to reflect, has reflection questions and how to take action on each of the 7 goals. Again, inspiration. There are other Laudato Si action plans, and I will show you where to get those. And if you ever need to chat, oh, I did not put the hyperlink there. I will share it with Josh. You can schedule a Zoom meeting with me. I'm available. I can walk you through if you have questions or if you need a resource. So where do you get the Laudato Si plans? On the platform itself, there is a section under, I think it's community, that you get to this, parishes, all plans. It's the global English world. So you get also parishes from Australia and Canada and South Africa, and quite different sometimes culturally. But For the US, you can go to God's Planet, and there is a link under the sectors, under parishes and dioceses, for action plans for parishes and dioceses. A lot of parishes have not given me their plans. That's fine. I do have a few in there. Dioceses are better at giving me their plans. So when you enroll in the platform, and some of you may have already done that, this is in the dashboard where you would get your suggested actions. This is where a lot of folks get like, oh dear, we're so bad. It's your baseline impact. Don't worry. Every US individual, parish, diocese will score very badly because we are carbon hogs compared to the rest of the world. This is where you see other reflections, and this is when you see other plans. So you can get to in the platform to these places in different ways. Once you enroll, this is in your dashboard. So here is one example of a plan that is on the God's Planet website. This is a plan from St. John Newman in Reston, Virginia, in the Diocese of Arlington. And it's just one screenshot of their response to the cry of the poor and ecological economics. I give you the links to year 1 plan, year 2 plan, and their reflection. So under response to the cry of the poor, you will see there, this is year 1, and yet it says continue, continue, continue. It is a parish that has been doing creation care for a few years. They didn't want to reinvent things and start new. They saw what they had been doing, and they're going to continue it. On their plan, besides it being not so text heavy, they also have it as a chart where they have the suggested leaders, the status, where are we on this, the timing, and their metric of success. How will they evaluate it at the end of the year? Same thing for ecological economics. And this type of chart, they have it for every single goal. And you have there the links to this. This is a different plan from a much smaller parish. This is a parish in Bettendorf, Iowa, rural area. This is their ecological economics screenshot from their plan. As you can see, they have on the top part of their statement a little bit of background, examples of things that they've done in the past, and then they have proposed goals, their commitments for the next year. This is their action plan for 24. And so if you see there, they've already done some things. They've replaced lights, they've replaced the HVAC system, they've replaced their insulation. So they have done that. Now they're moving into sustainable production consumption using the parish's consumer power. So how are they going to be in the marketplace with the lens of Laudato Si, looking at circular economy? Some great ideas are all within these plans. The other place that you find ideas is within the Creation Care Teams network. As I said, there are about 400 teams that have registered with the Covenant. We meet every 2 months in an online conversation. You receive a monthly email with ideas and resources. There's a resource library with toolkits that include a roadmap, what you should do in your first year, what are things that could be done on sustainability, on advocacy, etc. There's a closed Facebook group where you can ask people, other creation care teams, and share what you're doing. And you get the wraparound support that I told you. So if you're interested in this, you can go to this website on the Covenant and register your team. You would receive the information with a page for your team. And finally, I say, if all you want to do, if you don't want to do a creation care team and you want to keep it a little lighter, you can just join the Covenant as a supporter. And that way you'll get prayers, the community, sense of community, action alerts, some resources. It's not as much as you get on the Teams CCT place, but you get quite a bit. You can email me. There's my my email. And here is where I hyperlinked the Calendly for you to be able to create a Zoom meeting with me. So let me stop sharing, and I am happy to pass it back to Josh so that any questions that you might have, I can try to answer.
Great. Thanks, Paz. Now, it's one of the things I'll mention kind of off the bat before we jump in is for all of our teams out there, as we work towards making our plan, we have simplified the process. So for LSAP, we have not made it mandatory to do a reflection or to do that assessment. You are welcome to use all of those resources on the action platform, and we really encourage you to. And now that your teams are developed and you're making a plan, we would really encourage you to register with the Catholic Climate Covenant, register your team, and start working with other teams throughout the United States. But just to mention again, for the sake of this first year, all we're going to ask you to do is we want everyone to make sure to go on that LSAP and register your team, and then do the process that we laid out, and then you're going to upload your plan at the end there too.
And
But
one thing,
again, yeah,
Josh, the assessment is optional,
yep,
even for, on the platform itself.
perfect. But yeah, very, very good to think about that. Now, what I want to do is just open up some time for questions for Paz. Paz, again, thank you so much for your time and for sharing this. I have to admit to everyone that you were one of the first people I went to when we started this process, because we wanted to know how to create a process for our diocese that is built on the wisdom of a lot of other dioceses and parishes that have been working hard to work towards a plan. So we've tried to be practical from the beginning, and we really are grateful for all of your help. So could you start by telling us a little bit, kind of zoom out for us, and how does our process compare to other dioceses? How does the Lansing diocese fit within this larger U.S. context about the Laudato Si action?
Yeah. So let me do it chronologically a little bit, the history. In 2015, right after Laudato Si was published, the Archdiocese of Atlanta became the first diocese to come up with an action plan. And that's one of the plans on our God's Planet website. It is about 30, 40 pages, and it basically gave people ideas as part of the archdiocese. You as an individual, you as a parish, have these options. You can do A, B, C, simple, medium, harder. Very big, very all-encompassing. And they were helped by the University of Georgia scientists and professors who put together for then Archbishop Gregory this incredible plan. It was not in what the archdiocese was going to be doing. It was more like you in the archdiocese, you members can do these things. The Archdiocese of Washington and then San Diego kind of followed in the next few years, creating similar ones. Then there was a little shift where once the Laudato Si Action platform was announced, dioceses began putting out their plans with what the chancery can do, what we within the diocese can do, not just telling members of the Catholic community in the area what they can do. What your plan is the best at is that it's both. That you're being able to say, we within the diocesan structure are going to have these goals, and our parishes will have these goals. And then as you go, you may have that families within the parishes have these goals, and so forth. The other difference, I think that because you have such strong leadership that is pulling everything together, your parishes aren't going to be feeling like they're the onlys out there struggling to come up with a plan in a diocese that doesn't have anything on creation care on their website. So you have that as a plus. I think I told Josh when he first talked to me and where they were heading, I said, if you pull this off, and you are pulling it off right now, so you're on the way for this, you will become most likely the example that we give within the US Catholic community as to how to do this. So A+ on that.
All right, thanks, Paz. So a couple of questions came up. First, some of them were directed to me, and then I'll start there. So some of the questions around kind of how we're going to do this annually, kind of evaluation, and first, when you make your plan, it does not have to be for 1 year. You can make a plan for lots for 5 years. That's going to be really up to you. Each year, which we haven't determined exactly how we're going to do this, but I'll lead this from the Office of Peace and Justice. Is I'll reach out to parishes and we'll develop some process to evaluate during September and throughout September each year. So we don't have that process ironed out yet. It's largely going to come about organically based on how our teams do putting this plan together and how it can be most helpful each year to evaluate and update the plan. It's important to note that as we continue to grow as a diocese, we'll have different insights on how we can grow as parishes, what opportunities are available. So that'll be part of it too. It won't just be that each parish is taking on more and more, is that as a diocese, we'll also be growing. And we'll be looking at this differently, that new technology will become available, and maybe like the Inflation Reduction Act, new opportunities will come available, and we'll want to step into those each year. So that's what we'll do every year, and I'll guide you through that starting next year, 2025 season of creation. So when you make your plan, you can make a plan for minimum, obviously, of 1 year, but you can scale that out to 5 years. Do whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. Now, kind of related to that, Paz, could you say a little bit about how you've seen plans develop year by year, kind of starting simple and how that works, how you've seen parishes do that?
Yes. You can even go and look at St. John Newman's year 1 and year 2. Once they've completed something, they will mark it done. Then they will add something to that section. Because a lot of St. John Newman's was continuing, they are now in year 2 starting to dream bigger. And you can sort of see that. They had a dishwashing ministry. So they had done a switching everything from disposables to buying ceramic cups and everything. Well, that meant that they had to have teams that would, after mass, the coffee hours or whenever they had an event, had to be loading the dishwashers and then taking them out. They bought the dishwasher. They have the teams. Well, that's sort of now kind of just in the continuing, they have that. Now they're moving more into is the dishwasher that we have the most energy efficient that we could have? Perhaps we need to start looking at that. And the next time that we have to replace the dishwasher, we'll go for a really very efficient industrial type. So you see that kind of shift. Others have started with, oh, we have a passion for community garden. And they'll have their community garden going. And then the next year they'll be like, oh, but now we want to have a Mary garden with native US American plants. This is a true story. They had created a Mary garden, and they had taken the list of plants that was for a traditional Mary garden that was created for the Mediterranean. They were not native plants, and they were not having any success with their plantings. They figured that out, and now they went and they've created lists of native plants that can be switched from those non-natives. So things like that, either big or small, just little recalibrations.
Yeah. Thanks. One of the questions that has come up too is about engagement, because we have a timeline here that moves at a pretty fast pace, and we do that so that we can have momentum and get things moving. But we acknowledge too that maybe your engagement in the parish isn't what you hoped it would be. Maybe you haven't got the responses from people all over the parish that you would have liked to get from. So maybe part of your plan for this first year is also reaching out to more people. so that your team can grow for next year, or that you can continue to engage the larger parish. So also think that this year doesn't have to be the end all be all, not just for your actions, but also for your engagement. You can continue to grow your engagement. Another question that came up is around, I see here we asked about whether or not we're on God's planet. I'll take a look at that, Dan, and
No,
see.
I did. I went and looked, and he was right. We had missed it.
Okay.
And let's see. If you come to God's planet and you go to LSAP Enroll Diocese, I had 27 and Lexington wasn't on it. So now you are number 28. You are on it.
We made it.
You made it. Now, it's kind of funny that I missed it because right next to it, your action plan guide is there. So
Oh, excellent. Oh, thanks, Dan. Great catch. And we were able to fix that
just
lock
like that.
just like that. That's great. And Dan, you had another question about the how to imagine having your continued actions and then new commitments, continued commitments and new commitments. I would say, well, if you're doing a lot, name all of it. Keep doing it, and that's okay. And then, really, your new commitments, you're going to look at your capacity, as Paz was saying. You want to say, what can we want to do at least something in all of these. We want to take on new commitments in each one, but I wouldn't worry too much about if it feels lopsided because you're already doing a lot. The important thing is we continue to do what we're doing and we take on what we can take on. So I wouldn't worry too much about those percentages. Paz, anything to add to that?
No, as I said, this has to be your plan. You need to feel like you own it and you feel comfortable with it. Where it'll fail is if you come in and you put in there, oh, our commitment is we're putting solar on our roof. We're going to have carpools to church every single Sunday. Uh, and then you come back and go like, oops, we didn't realize how expensive solar might have been, or how dragged on process it might be, or the carpool situation. It might work perhaps for an urban church, but not for a rural church, where everybody goes to church only on carpools. So you really have to be, and that's part of the recalibration. If you in year two find that one of your commitments has just not worked, you are perfectly able to go and say, we're putting that commitment aside. We're going to be focusing on this year, or this year and the next 3 years, because you might have a goal that really isn't accomplished within 1 year. It's an ongoing for 5, 6, 7 years. And once the platform's 7 year time is over, it may be that you just continue with this kind of exercise of creating these annual plans. It's up to you.
Yeah, I think we certainly are envisioning that this will just continue for us. I think one of the things you mentioned, Paz, which is be kind of some of our final things here, is about capacity. You know, part of our plans can be to evaluate solar, and you just put a timeline on it. So you can say, Susan and we'll take the lead on getting an evaluation for solar by this date in 2025. That's a good part of the plan. It doesn't commit you to solar. It just says that you're moving in this direction of doing an evaluation. And then after that, you can make your decision if that's going to be part of your next plan. As you update that plan, is solar going to be part of it? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe that doesn't make sense for you right now.
Right.
So also think about how when you're making a plan, you're exploring things and finding out if they're feasible and just build that into your plan. So it's not a zero-sum game. Well, we can either do these big things or we can't. Well, maybe part of the plan is we're going to do an evaluation of can we do HVAC? Can we do this? Can we do solar? Now, another question that has come up throughout this process is that's related to capacity is whether or not there'll be funds available and how that's going to work.
Yeah.
I would say right now, you're looking at what your parish can do. So there, through the Plant and Property Office, Destiny is working on grants. So you can contact them and contact Ed Davis through the facilities office, facilities director. So if you can talk, we really want you to work with the staff. You're going to have to work with the staff, and they are working hard to find grants. But ultimately, this is going to be about what's sustainable for your parish right now. That's what we're asking you to look at. If you, many of our parishes are looking at solar. They're looking at how they can do that because it makes sense for them financially too, and it's a commitment they're willing to take. So again, within your capacity, we're not asking you to come up with plans that are going to depend on the diocese to find money for, but rather look at what you can do this first year and what you can explore for your parish in the future.
And a great example, there might be a parish that says, oh, solar is just not in there for us. We either because they are a historical building that can't have rooftop solar, they don't have much land, or financial. They then decide, okay, our self-assessment showed that we have not replaced our windows. And if we were to replace our windows, we would have a return on the investment that made sense. Or that we haven't changed our light bulbs in the schools. We could do that. And you don't have to say we're going to change all of them in year one. You could say we will work to replace our light bulbs in the school or in the parish in the next 3 to 4 years. You know, as the light bulbs start burning, the ones that will be replaced will be the more efficient ones. Or once we come up with that our HVAC system, because we have an oil furnace perhaps, or a very inefficient system, when that needs to be replaced, because it has still 4 or 5 years of life in it, so it doesn't really make sense to do it now, we will explore for the most efficient system. We'll electrify rather than gas, things like that. You can always be looking at that. Some parishes, I mean, I'm going to be honest, some parishes might have 60, 90, 100 families, and big projects might not be possible. So they'll start looking at their purchasing, that make sure that what they are buying is fair trade. The coffee that every Sunday they used, make it fair trade. That's their commitment, and that's perfectly fine. I did want to share one thing on the I'm sorry, on the Covenant website, not the God's Planet website. If you come here and you go to learn and go to all resources, there's a little search, and I'm going to write here Inflation Reduction Act. And what comes up here is this resource. It's a web page that gives you resources for funding opportunities for houses of worship. And your diocese is probably going to be looking at this, but there are places that now that have grants for some of these bigger projects. It used to be that for big solar projects, you had to have investors that would front the money for your project. They would get the tax credit because as a church, we don't have a tax credit. The Inflation Reduction Act changes that. It now has straight grants to nonprofits and faith community for these big projects. And that page has that information.
Thanks, Paz. We have time for one more question, so I just want to share this question that came in here. How are we seeing dioceses being effective in bringing their plans to the greater community? So across the sectors.
Yeah, great question. I'm trying to remember who it was that said there are almost 280 some dioceses in the US, 270, I think, but not all of them, 270 bishops, but not all of them are dioceses, but it's a big number. If even 50% of them started looking at the impact of the chancery on the environment, you would have an enormous kind of like example of what is happening. Let me give you sort of what, not in a diocesan way, but Catholic health care. Catholic hospital systems, health systems are huge, and they have an enormous footprint on the environment, because healthcare has an enormous footprint on the environment. If you think about it, when you go into a hospital, can you get away from plastic? It's everywhere, and it's everywhere because it's necessary for what they're doing. Yet, if a hospital system decides to have a sustainability plan, it explodes in the sense of showing other healthcare systems of the possible, what can be done. They can't switch IV tubing because that will always, for now, be plastic. They can push for better things in the industry, but for now, they can't change it. But they can look at what is it that they can change. And usually it's changing what goes to the patient. Most of them have said plastic straws, unless the patient truly needs them, are something we can say no to. Having non-disposables, things that the patient could use, not the surgery disposables, but things in the room. So they're starting to change that, and they're changing the purchasing of those things, making them less expensive, which means that the rest of the healthcare industry starts to notice and starts changing their ways as well. So the same thing would happen with dioceses. If it's said that the Catholic Church, starting with its leadership, with its highest echelons, is making these commitments, followed by their parishes, followed by their schools, followed by their individual members, that is how many millions of Catholics in the US? 70 some million, an enormous part of a purchasing power.
Well, and it paints a picture too of our call to be to evangelize, to be salt and light. So thank you, Paz. This was such a great conversation, and I have really appreciated your accompaniment throughout this process. And anyone here who has questions, who wants to go deeper in any of these issues, I'll send around these slides, and you can please feel free to reach out to Paz directly. So again, thank you, Paz. This was really
You're
wonderful.
welcome. Thank you. And